Welcome to another edition of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble and Bicker on this November 17th, 2021. We have an incredibly special guest today. Her name is Kreesha Turner. She is a modern-day Renaissance woman, a producer, actor, singer, dancer, kind of like the Canadian version of Jennifer Lopez. And she may or may not be sticking around later on when we discuss our client. And our client for today, everybody, is How Deep Is Your Bunker? Or Apocalypse Wow!
Behold, trapped in a hellscape of their own invention, socially unaware old white men bound by the pretense of being fake lawyers yet knowing no law, no exquisite Latin terminology, they are inexplicably compelled to quibble over minutia, squabble over triflings, and bicker like those who value their backyards far too highly without even knowing the difference between an easement and an alleyway. At this very moment, you have entered the heart of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble and Bicker. Let's get started.
Oh, okay. Well, hey guys.
Hello. Or you can sing, or you can dance, or you can talk about the fact that you're into day trading and stocks and stuff like that.
Oh, listen, don't get me started on that. I will use up the entire 30% on my iPad just talking about the stock market. So,
well, I'll get started on like the cryptocurrency social media network that we're on called UHive, but that'll be a different thing we could talk about.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah, it's basically run by cryptocurrency. You can buy spots on it, and also their cryptocurrency is actually available.
You know, speaking of currency,
outside of
shouldn't we have our sponsor give us some fake currency?
Damn it! Why do I always forget this?
I don't, because you don't appreciate all the work I do.
Free money now.
To bring our sponsors to the table. You know, I have to go out and hustle up people. It's tough in Florida, but I do it, you know, for the sake of the show.
Brendan is awesome at finding sponsors that don't pay us anything. So, Brendan, please. Thank you, Greg, for being my memory.
All right. Well, in coordination with tonight's client, our sponsor tonight. So, the end is upon us. You've retreated to the warm, safe, but slightly musty bunker. You have food, water, board games, and a loaded gun just in case. But wait, you forgot a key factor. Well, maybe a couple of factors. Not one, but in fact, number two. That's right, poop. What are you going to do with all that poop? Sure, you could break it down, dig a hole. What's the fun in that? That is why the good folks at Spunko have brought you the Poopinator 3000 Easy Craftomatic. That's right. You will take your fresh poop and turn it into healthy, nutrient-dense, vegan, gluten-free, pro-keto, gender-neutral snack bars. Why just eat something once when you can eat it again? Plus, the kids simply go wild for Poopinator's poop bars. Don't forget to stock up on our patented Flavo spread, chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and 4 Loko. Poop bars have all the vitality and nutritional value of those pre-apocalyptic bars you currently shove in your kid's face each morning as a meal replacement or add to their lunch box as a fun treat. But our poop, or should I say your poop bars, won't cost you $9 a box. So remember, once you're in the bunker, you still have shit to deal with. Why not feed it to your kids? Poop bars. They're made from poop.
Oh,
okay. Since I'm from Portland, Oregon, Brendan, I do have to correct you, and it's not exactly vegan if it's coming out of a human body.
It's not plant-based.
It's not plant-based. No, definitely not.
I do like the addition of the 4 Loko, though. That was
the 4
inspired.
Loko was the Florida part, but I'll bring it up to the client that you're protesting that their product isn't vegan.
It's not vegan.
Greg will get all over that. All right, that was outstanding, Brendan. Once again, you find the best sponsors for our show.
Yes.
So, okay. Well, Kreesha, if you have anything you'd like to comment on regarding that, that'd be fine.
Oh my gosh, no, I think the ad said it all. Listen, we still got shit to deal with. We didn't think of that one, that's for sure.
I'm not even going to wait for the apocalypse. I want that now. I want free candy bars.
So you can never leave your apartment, Greg? Is that why?
Well, it's just free candy bars. I'm cheap.
Yeah.
I want free candy bars.
On a budget, we're all trying to be economical right now.
Well, you could do it yourself, Greg. Go for it. All right, so So is Cree a nickname for you? Because I see that on the screen that you have Cree as opposed to
Oh yeah,
Kreesha spelled out. Okay, is that
yeah. People
due
just call
to
me
like
Cree.
is it a nationality? Do you have like Cree blood or?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Even
Oh,
though where I'm from, Edmonton, Canada, we're surrounded by a bunch of reservations that have a lot of Cree Aboriginal in Canada. So growing up, it was a great reference point for me to use to people like Cree, like the Indian, like the tribe. And they'd be like, oh, yeah. So it was always an immediate reference that in Canada people understood, you know?
did you ever try to cash in on that possibly to maybe get like free college and?
No, I didn't. I have a lot of Aboriginal friends though, and I got to hear about everything that they had to deal with. But there's always a catch 22 when it comes to that stuff. So, but
Now,
that's
you mentioned both indigenous and aboriginal. So in Canada, how is like obviously in the United States we call them Native Americans, or you call them something different in Canada?
yes, over the course of my lifetime. So, and the government likes to change it probably every decade. So I remember when I was in elementary school, it was Indian. Then when I was in junior high, it was Native Americans. And then by the time I was in high school, the official government term is now Aboriginal. So I've been programmed from high school to use Aboriginal. I can't even say
I have
Aboriginal.
Canadian friends who always call it First Nations. Is that a
Yeah,
thing?
it might
Have you
be
heard
a
that?
different. It might be a different province too, because I do hear that as well. First
Yeah.
Nations.
Do you ever
But
get
it's
confused by people as being a member of the First Nations?
it, yes.
Okay, that's when you got to get the money out of that one
I was like, which
somehow.
one is it? Because you look this way. But yeah, yeah, it's funny the technicalities, and you don't want to offend anybody, so you're kind of like, oh, okay, let me say
Is
that.
there a large Jamaican community in Canada?
Oh, what? Absolutely.
I don't know.
I
I don't
listen.
know.
I will teach you. So, and just not to go into too much of a spiel, but I always tell people that Canada is a nation of immigrants. Canada has multiple of the largest populations outside of their origin country. So, Toronto, Canada, has the largest Jamaican population outside of Jamaica, and Vancouver has the largest Chinese population outside of China. Um,
Whoa. And I hear Toronto has the largest Filipino population outside of the Philippines.
Yeah,
Is that true?
no, because Canada is like I said, it's a nation of immigrants. Everybody is from somewhere, or their parents were from somewhere, and everybody's still very closely connected with like their motherland, whatever their motherland is.
But we have the Statue of Liberty that welcomes them. Do you have a thing like that in Canada?
No, we don't have that.
Bring us your poor.
They have the
Yeah.
monolith of liberty,
No,
Greg.
no,
Bring
they
us your
have.
poor, your swarthy.
Don't they have like a big Paul Bunyan thing? Maybe that's a West Coast thing.
Oh, I don't know.
They have the
That's
maple
over
leaf
here.
of
Not
liberty.
Canadian.
We get free maple syrup and ketchup chips. That's what we get.
Ketchup
No.
chips. Like they make chips out of ketchup, like they freeze dry it or something, or
Oh, you don't know about ketchup chips?
No. Enlighten
No.
us,
What?
please.
I
So
don't.
Enlighten
it's like salt and vinegar chips, but
Mhm.
the flavor is ketchup.
Oh, you mean like potato chips?
Yeah, like
Ketchup
Oh,
flavored
potato
potato
chips.
chips.
Okay. Well, I've
Yes,
heard of
but the
ketchup.
flavor.
potato
I've heard of
chips.
ketchup flavored potato chips. I thought you were like actual ketchup chips, like they take ketchup
Oh, we call
and
it.
they
We call
dry
it
it
ketchup
out
chips.
and they turn it into chips or
Oh,
something.
That's
no.
the stuff that sticks on the rim of the ketchup bottle. That nasty thing.
Oh, like the little
done.
crust, and they turn it
Yeah.
into a whole like baked chip.
It's
Could
like
be a
buffalo
thing.
chips, It's a similar thing, It comes out of the end of a buffalo. You
No,
find
that's
like
no,
a
that's
living, breathing
different.
ketchup bottle, and it comes out of the end of a ketchup bottle. And there you have your chips, Greg.
So
Oh,
I would like
my.
to just say that I'm channeling my great aunt Ninita, who lived to be 103. She was Dominican, and I saw your video, "Sexy Gal." Matt sent me a link, and
Uh-huh.
all Ninita would have said is, "I know Mira, I know Mira."
What
That
does
was
that
a
mean?
very provocative video, Kreesha.
It was. I know. Some days I'm like, maybe I should get them to take that down.
Was
I
that
have
like
this
someone's
moment.
suggestion? It was like the
Yeah,
director wanted you to do that?
it was definitely management and everybody's suggestion because I had never done anything so sexy. And even my personality, I'm actually secretly just a nerd. So they be trying to convince people that I'm like this sultry diva. when all I do is stare at crypto and the stock market all day. But
And
yeah,
yet you have 500,000 followers on Instagram that I don't think are following you because
oh, they
of
all
your
think
crypto.
I'm sexy and sultry too. Yeah.
Well, it's because of all the
the ruse
bikini
of the
pictures you
century.
have on there. You got all those shots of you in bikinis and with sultry photos. I mean, it's not like you're
No.
looking at your computer and looking at the statistics for a stock or how
You
Apple
know,
is
I was
doing.
thinking of doing that though, like bikinis and stocks and put it together. It could be a thing.
You
That's an idea.
You could probably get a lot of clients that way.
What you really need to do is you need to start a Twitch channel where
I have a Twitch.
You have a Twitch. Do you do day trading in a bikini? Because that could be huge.
Well, see, this was the thing, is that was actually originally one of my like ideas that I told my management, but I actually teach classes on a different platform that's a live broadcasting platform, like a Twitch.
Right.
So I do that. I teach a class every Sunday, but they're very PG. This platform is very PG, so I teach it fully closed, unfortunately. But
Unfortunately,
she's like, I wish I could be naked, but they won't let me.
listen, I hate pants. I am part of the revolution that would like for pants to be obliterated.
blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I gotta say, when I'm home, I'm just naked when it's hot. I don't care.
And he doesn't
Clothes
accept
Who
Who
needs
visitors.
clothes?
Clothes are dumb.
Especially pants. Screw them.
Well, you know,
Okay.
pants do have a little bit of a function in terms of protecting your furniture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's happening at your house, Matt, that we need to
Matt's
talk
not
about?
wiping his ass. Matt's not wiping his
You're
ass.
wearing pants to protect
He's
your
running.
furniture?
He's running into chairs and
Matt's not
dressers.
using
Not
the
really
baby
sure.
wipes after he takes a shit.
Okay.
Oh man.
I'm
All right.
preparing myself for the sponsors' bars is what I'm doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
All
man.
right.
when did you first get involved in music? Was it something you started when you were very, very young? Was it something that came later? How did you get started?
I actually started late.
Hmm.
In context, because I feel like most of the singers you run into, they're like, "Oh, I've been singing since I could walk." Like,
Right.
you know, no, that was not me at all. I didn't start singing. So I am a Canadian Jamaican, and my mom is Jamaican, my father's Canadian, and so when I was 14, I got deported. Not by the government. I got deported by my mom. My mom deported me to Jamaica.
What? That's a thing?
You don't
Your mom
belong
did
here
deport
anymore.
you?
Hey, mothers, they
What?
deport everybody across Canada.
Did you misbehave one day? She was like, I'm not grounding you, I'm deporting you.
That's exactly what happened. That is
Oh my
exactly
God.
what happened.
That is
See, that's the
tough
thing.
love.
Anybody who has immigrant parents, like all immigrant parents threaten to deport their children if they misbehave. But I feel like I'm the only one that it ever actually happened to.
So she deported you back to Jamaica?
She deported me to Jamaica. Yeah, I lived with my grandma and my aunt. But so I was 14 when I got deported. And it was when I was living in Jamaica. So I went to part of my high school in Jamaica that, you know, the Jamaican culture, everybody knows reggae, everybody knows Bob Marley. To say music is not one of the strongest holds on that country and the culture that it breathes is music. So everybody sings. And it was when I was there that, you know, some friends peer pressured me into joining the church youth choir. And that's where I fell in love with singing. So I started singing
Was it
late.
the youth choir, the church youth choir in Jamaica?
Yes, it
So
was.
was it a Rastafarian church that you were part of, or?
No, I actually went to a Pentecostal church.
Oh no!
Oh, they're
And so
fun.
Oh,
Yeah, I
why?
was-
Bunch of
It's
people.
not. Oh no! Like think Blues Brothers, like that scene in Blues Brothers where people with
Oh,
the
that's
tambourines
fun.
running up and down the
Okay.
aisles and dancing
But
and
don't
doing cartwheels.
Pentecostals like handle snakes and shit?
No,
No, those are the
no,
extreme
no.
ones, Greg.
No,
Those
no,
are,
I don't know.
that's
those
like an
ones.
extreme Baptist one, but you know maybe Pentecostals are a little different in Jamaica. I mean,
I was gonna say,
Pentecostals
I don't
generally
know
in the
that one.
U.S. are like heavy on the speaking in
Thanks.
tongues
Right.
and
Oh
that
no, they
type of thing.
speak in tongues in Jamaica. They're about that stuff too in Jamaica.
Yeah, no, that's sort of the key thing.
Now,
for
when they speak in
Pentecostals.
tongues in Jamaica, do they speak it in a Jamaican accent or is it some other unintelligible accent?
Oh no, they be speaking a different language, so it ain't coming out in Jamaican accent. That's for sure.
Well, you can speak a different language with a Jamaican accent. I mean, I'm
Touche,
sure.
but I guess I wouldn't know what another language sounds like in a Jamaican accent.
Well, you've
Like think
spoken
about it.
English in a Jamaican accent, haven't you?
Yeah, I can speak the dialect fully.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But still, at the same time, if I don't know Spanish, I've had Spanish people explain to me like, oh, that person's from the south of Spain versus this person's from the east, and I can tell by their accent. To me, it all sounds the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
I think speaking in tongues, Matt, in Jamaica sounds like bomba da bomba bomba da bomba da bomba da bomba dang a dang dang
Exactly.
Really? And do they have blue
Yeah, that
moons
song.
there, Greg, as well?
Did
They
you
don't have
did you
normal moons?
ever speak in tongues? Did you ever find the spirit in you and you wanted to speak in tongues?
No, I didn't. I
'Cause you're
did love the
singing?
singing though. Well, it's
Yeah.
not, but yes, because I'm saying I don't know. Everybody has their own experience, but for me, I will say that the reason I felt in love with singing that way, or in general, is, and I always give this analogy. So before I sang, I was a dancer. So I went from the time I was 4. My parents put me in like tap and modern and jazz and all that other kind of stuff, and I was part of an African dance ensemble. So as a dancer, you know the power of music because it makes you want to move. Like you can't explain why you want to move this way, you just do. And so when I was singing on the choir in Jamaica, and to see the reaction, especially from a Pentecostal church, which is over the top, people start speaking in tongues, people start screaming, and people start dancing. And I just remember the awareness of understanding that for the first time in my life, I was the action that caused the reaction, because I was part of this choir we were the ones singing, we were the ones creating this music. And to me, so even within this extreme behavior, yes, it's not typically how an audience would react, but it was still part of this like euphoric understanding of like, yeah, like I am the catalyst that caused this in some kind of strange way, if that
Well, I
makes
think
sense.
I get it. So basically, you had like control over the audience, and that was like addictive for you a little bit.
But and then also the understanding that like through my emotion I could evoke somebody else's emotion, or through my sincerity in what I was singing, or you know what I mean, like there's so many different elements, especially when you're singing emotional songs in church, that you know, for whatever phase you might be in your life, that connect more than the other. But it's just an overstanding of, yeah, like the emotional connectivity and power that music has, and to be the one singing it.
Yeah, there's nowhere that you can really, I think, honestly, having been to Pentecostal churches and other African American churches here in the South over the years, there's nothing that you can't not be moved by the crowd and the music and the whole thing. It's just no way you couldn't unless you're a robot. That's why there's not a lot of big singers coming out of Lutheran churches, Matt and Greg. You know, that's just there's not that same level of
Episcopalian.
Big singing energy at
the Mormon singers, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
Well, that's a different. The Tabernacle Choir is a different vibe. It's a different. It's a whole different thing. But yeah,
it's more emo.
And they wouldn't let Jamaicans into that choir anyway.
I don't think they would.
I mean, Greg, you were raised Catholic, right, Greg?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a lot of singing and dancing that you felt motivated by at a Catholic church?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember growing up Catholic, and my friend's father took me to a black church for the first time. He said, "You got to go to church with us on Sunday." And I'm like, "Okay." And I went, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe it, because my other religious experience had been, you know, and this vampire coming through the crowd, and I'm like, what is all this?
A vampire? What?
And the incense, that nasty incense.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's scary as hell.
Yeah.
Because you were raised like Irish Catholic, Brendan, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have those experiences, having been raised by Jews.
And I was Italian, Hispanic, Catholic.
Italian, Hispanic, Catholic? What?
Yeah, both my parents grew up Catholic.
Oh, interesting.
So when did your mother decide to bring you back? I mean, did you pass some sort of test,
or did she just forget about you and she was like,
oh no, I got in trouble in Jamaica again, and then I got
Wait, what kind of trouble? You seem like this wholesome person. What kind of trouble are you getting into to first be deported to Jamaica and then get deported back?
Did you try to like assassinate the president of Jamaica or something? Like, what are you doing?
She like said something bad about Bob Marley. They're like, no, you got to go.
I can see getting deported out of Canada to Jamaica. I have to understand how you get kicked out of Jamaica.
She like stole Jimmy
you have
Cliff's
to
beer or
remember,
something.
Me saying deported is by my family members. Like official government personnel. Like, so it's, and I actually was a great kid. Like, I was a major honor student. I listened. I grew up scared shitless of my mom. So mind you, the first time to get deported to Jamaica, I actually broke my first rule. So it wasn't even like I did anything extreme. My mom just does not play. My mom was like, and that's why
Could you
I
tell us
grew
what
up
it
with
was? What was it? What was the transgression?
the transgression was no boys in the house without parents home.
Oh,
And that
That's
was in
pretty
both
big.
Canada and Jamaica. They were the same transgression.
No, in Jamaica, my mom, like my aunt and my grandma were super strict. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere but homeschool and church, and yeah, I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. But no, it was like some misunderstanding, like some drama at my church. It's a long story. But it, like, to me, I didn't even feel like it was my fault. But nonetheless, it put my aunt under stress because there in Jamaica, the churches have like a hierarchy. Like, I feel like in America, churches aren't really like that. But you have to remember, Jamaica's the third world country. So there's already a hierarchy within society. You know, you're either from uptown or downtown. Uptown is you're wealthy, you're probably fair skinned, you might be a foreigner. Like, there's all these different dynamics within that social structure that translate into a hierarchy in the church. So when you are a deacon or you're somebody that associates with the pastor, like, it's, oh my God, you talk to pastor. So, and because I guess of like the whatever expectations that came with, like, it was just dumb shit. I didn't even do nothing. But anyways, I got deported back.
But you got sent back to Canada nonetheless.
Yes, I did.
Now you said that Canada is a nation of immigrants, but then you say that your father is a Canadian and your mother's Jamaican.
Yes.
So then,
Yes.
so what immigration? Where did your father's people immigrate from?
So my dad is second generation. So his parents were also born in Canada, but his grandparents were from Scotland and Germany.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
got it. And
Mhm.
your
Did
mother
you
was
like
first generation
Jamaica?
from Jamaica.
Oh, my mom immigrated to Canada in the 70s.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
so because my mom was not born in Canada, it makes me a first generation immigrant in Canada. Yes.
Got it.
What was your question?
Yeah,
I was just
George.
going to ask, did you love Jamaica? Was it hard to go back to the cold of Canada? Like, oh, I'm in this tropical paradise, and
You
then I get
know,
sent back to Canada.
I always explain to people that my entire life had always had a love-hate relationship with Jamaica. And it had to do, because before I lived there, we would go to Jamaica every year, either for summer or for Christmas. So my association and my constantly, frequently in Jamaica, interacting with our family, interacting with the culture, is where I guess I gained my anxieties from. I have social anxiety, but I'm great at managing it.
We'll
But
help you.
Thank you. In Jamaica, because of the cultural differences, so for example, like, I would always have anxiety when I would go to Jamaica because people are really aggressive there. They're super, especially when we would go to Kingston, which is like the Mexico City of Mexico. Like, we're not going to Montego Bay and Ocho Rios and the Grill. We're going to city. We're going to Kingston, Jamaica, which when I lived there, Kingston, Jamaica had the highest murder rate in the Western Hemisphere. There was actually the summer, I think it was the summer of 2000 when I was there, they almost sent in military to extract all the Canadian and US citizens out because gunmen had taken over the country. Like, I did not leave my house for a month and a half. So
Wow.
there was a lot of like political stuff going on. There was a lot of civil unrest. So within understanding the Jamaican culture, their temperament, you know what I mean? Like, every country you go to, people have different dispositions, people have different ways of interacting with people. So because I'm so fair skinned, even though I'm half black, half white, even my brothers are darker than me, I'm extra beige. When they see me, they automatically are like, okay, she's a foreigner, she's wealthy, she's privileged. So automatically I'm a target. People like I remember when I moved there and I didn't understand why people just hated me. And I'm here like this happy-go-lucky Canadian. Like,
it's probably because your color is the same color as the walls of most apartments.
yes, that's exactly what it is.
You have to call your next album Extra Beige. That's your next
beige.
album title.
Extra beige. That's a
Extra
Jamaican
beige.
accent. We say extra beige. Yeah.
Now, are you allowed to use that accent? I mean, I understand that you're half Jamaican, but you were raised in Canada. Are you not like called to the carpet for appropriation of the accent whenever you talk with?
No, she's half Jamaican. She can
yeah,
use
I
the
know,
accent.
but you know,
I
it's
talk
still...
it all the time.
Okay.
I receive it. I receive people not understanding it. But to me, you know what I mean? My mom speaks it. So I grew up, it's like being bilingual. You have one parent that's Chinese and you happen to learn Chinese, or one parent's Spanish and one parent's English. Like you learn to speak both. And within that same concept, like there's jokes that aren't funny unless I'm saying it to my mom in the accent, because it has to do with the sense of humor of that culture and that time and that space.
It's the same thing on the show. There's jokes that aren't funny here either.
You're like, hey,
and that mostly that mostly just has to do with Matt's time and place.
That's pretty true.
Nice.
Yeah, but I could talk to my dad about a spicy meatball and we'd crack up. So it was appropriate.
Yeah, everything has its own context. So within that, and then it's the same thing too. If someone automatically speaks to me in a Jamaican accent, I, without even thinking about it, reply in it. You know what I mean? So that's the thing, is like I can talk both ways. But coming to America, I did find that when I would switch back and forth, people were so confused by it. And I remember even people saying that like I was a Jafaican. But to me, within the concept of how I was raised, just naturally going back and forth, like to me, I didn't understand how it was any different than being bilingual, you know. And especially go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to make a bad joke, so go ahead.
But and
Please
other Canadian Jamaicans understand that the same way too. They're like, yeah, we can chat whenever we feel to, but then if we're going to speak proper English, we'll speak proper English. And it's the same thing in Europe, because there's a lot of Jamaicans in London. They will speak in the British accent, and when they drop, they'll start chatting Jamaican. So to me, the fact that they didn't understand that, I was like, what's your problem? Like, what? I don't, you know, but I understand that it, you know what you've experienced and what you've grown up in. So just the duality is not as common within, I feel like, the American society than it is per se in countries that are more used to the concept of, I don't know if I'm saying this right, because America's used to mass immigration, but I feel like other countries, when I travel to them, they encourage you to identify with your heritage or your culture, while in America, they want you to throw away your culture and just be American. Does that make sense?
Yeah, basically you have to Jafake it till you Jamaica it. That was the joke I was going to do before.
Thank you, Matt.
I had to get it out of my system, though. So.
Well, America's the melting pot. We want everyone to melt into this American fondue. Maybe.
Greg, where have you gone?
He's gone. It's gone black. But yeah, I mean, you know, it is interesting in America. We certainly we have accents, you know, and you know, if you're from a certain area, like my wife is from Minnesota, and I can tell when she talks to people from Minnesota, she will suddenly start sounding like she just stepped off the, you know, set of Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there is kind of like, it's like a tuning fork kind of thing that happens, but it's less cultural in the U.S. and it's much more regional. Although I've lived in Florida for 20 years and have not developed a Southern accent and refuse. So,
you know, if you go far enough south, though, you could get a Jamaican accent. So,
well, yeah, you get down to Miami, sure.
Right.
You
just go further south, you'll make it there. You know, I did have a question for Kreesha, which has nothing to do with any of this, but it had to do with the fact that she was an executive producer for a documentary about Fidel Castro.
Oh, yeah.
And I was curious as to why you were part of a documentary about Fidel Castro.
My mom's Cuban. I'm very interested.
Oh, okay. So for me, how I even got brought into this project. So okay, I am a person of information. Like my entire life, I've just been obsessed with, I'll go through different phases where I become obsessed with one thing and like consume everything that I can. And so I had this phase where I was obsessed with African politics. Fascinating stuff. And
that's what Fidel Castro is known for.
African politics. I'm going to lead you there. Follow me. Nelson Mandela always claimed Fidel Castro to be his hero. And okay, when you first hear that, you're like, what? Nelson Mandela claimed him to be his hero? And it's because there's so much of the African history that people don't even understand. The overthrowing of apartheid not can single-handedly be associated with, but there's a large portion that a lot of that American history news, North American history news media never kind of touched on. But Cuba sent equipment, sent military arms, sent all of this stuff to Angola. At the time, there was stuff going on in Angola. They trained Africans. They fought next to them. They gave them their own military weaponry. Because the apartheid was coming up, like South Africa's here at the bottom, Namibia, Angola is right up here, and this is the west coast of Africa. I know I'm giving you geography now, but so they worked. I'm
appreciating all the hand gestures, though. But go ahead.
They overthrew Angola, moved down through Namibia, and it was from that Fidel's army and his people essentially helped overthrow apartheid in South Africa. So when I learned this is not common information, and when you start to learn about his intricacy and how he was completely involved in this, it's kind of like, why didn't people know about this? So to me, in so many fascinating human beings that we discover in history, there's always a duality to them. You know what I mean? And to me, that was part of my fascination, that from this obsession of African politics, African history in modern society, and then also learning about Fidel Castro's role in overthrowing the apartheid government. And then also learning about, what went on between Cuba and there's just so much information, but I did feel there was a part of him that we never kind of looked at, and that was the man. So that's what this documentary is about. So we interviewed his family members. We even interviewed his ex-wives, his children. There's photos that have never been seen to the public in this documentary. We talked to Che Guevara's widow. It was his bodyguards, everybody that was super close to him, to try and get just an understanding of this man on the opposite side that most people obviously would never see.
You're trying to humanize Castro since he's been demonized for so long.
And it depends where you're from. You have to remember, I'm from Canada. He was never demonized in Canada.
Oh, okay.
You can still get Cuban cigars there, right? You never.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. People actually secretly think that Trudeau is potentially a love child of Fidel Castro. Google it.
What?
Google it.
Is this like a QAnon thing?
It's
no. CAnon. It's Canada, Greg.
No, just Google it. Just Google Fidel Castro and Trudeau. I'm not saying it's real, but there was a relationship. There's a healthy relationship between Canada and Cuba, and always has been. So in my broughtupsy, sorry, that's a Jamaican word. In my upbringing.
I want to go back to the word you just used, broughtupsy.
Broughtupsy. We say broughtupsy.
Broughtupsy. It's like Italian.
So it's brought up, like how you're brought up.
Broughtupsy.
Yeah, we say broughtupsy. So how you were raised, we would say, yeah, she's not brought up.
It's like epilepsy, but broughtupsy.
Yes.
Yeah, very similar to epilepsy.
Completely, absolutely.
Where can people see this documentary? I'm in.
It's actually been touring a bunch of the independent film circuit festivals right now. It just premiered I'm drawing a complete blank, but it was just one that happened literally last week. And then after we finished, because once you get a bunch of different film festivals, it adds value to it, and then you try to sell it. So once we sell it, we hope to sell it to a platform that I could be able to say hey, go to, I don't know, Amazon and view this doc, or A&E's, gonna do it. But it's not sold yet. We're still doing film festivals, so
got it.
Stay tuned.
I want to see that. So did you know this in your research, Kreesha? Do you know that Fidel Castro tried out for the Yankees before he became the leader of Cuba? And just how weird it is, alternate history-wise, if he was a better baseball player, Cuba might have been a very different country.
Wow.
He would have just been a Yankee. He really did. He was really good at baseball.
It would be weird for Fidel Castro ever to be called a Yankee.
Yes.
That would be super weird.
Not
especially
Yankee, go home.
With his militants and the way when you start to, that's fascinating. Yeah.
But also, so my mom was Cuban Dominican, but she talked about Cuba more, and they were one of the rich Cubans that that was a reason
they hated Fidel.
Yes, she did. And she was so liberal in her politics about everything else. I was Democrat liberal, but when it came to Fidel Castro, he was the devil. And even as a teenager, I'd be like, but Mom, he's an autocrat. He doesn't let free press, but it's better than Somoza, because that guy was a fascist and he let everyone starve. So Fidel, I have always had the soft spot, even though I wish he liked democracy a little more. But he at least feeds the people and gives them medicine as much as he can. When we put the embargo on them, they couldn't do shit.
They couldn't do shit.
Yeah, but he tried at least. Yeah, Somoza didn't give a shit about the poor. He's just let them die.
Talking about Somoza or Batista?
Oh, that's what I meant to say, huh? Oh, Batista. Sorry.
The guy before. I knew you meant the guy before.
That is Greg giving us alternate history by having somebody who's actually a pastry running the country before Castro.
Drunken History. It's like that TV show Drunken History.
That's so funny. That's why I did it though. Fidel is a fascinating human being, and like I said, for people to not know that he played a massive part in overthrowing the apartheid government.
Yeah,
and it was after a bunch of. I'm going to go into a whole history lesson, but
I was going to say, because the ANC had a lot of communist ties. The African National Congress had a lot of communist ties, so I can understand how Fidel would be connected to it to some extent.
Yeah, but then there's also the point that this was also a point in time where there was a slaughtering of teenagers by the apartheid military. Literally,
can we do that here now? Is that possible?
No,
can we
stop
have
this.
Slaughtering of teenagers?
I think they are doing that in America.
That's right. It's all Columbine.
Essentially, it was genocide that was occurring, and America literally told the United Nations to not interfere and that it was none of their business. So while all of the other countries were being told by America to not intervene in this genocide, Cuba was like, "Oh, fuck y'all, I'm gonna go help these people."
What time frame was that?
So I believe in 1974, in 1974, June 16th, which is called Youth Day in South Africa, is when something like 5,000 high school students took to a peaceful protest in the streets and left the school, and the apartheid government sent in the military guard and they gunned them down, unarmed teenagers in their suits, and slaughtered like over 600 of them. Wow. So the world, even though the press was not that massive, the United Nations countries were like, this is ridiculous. Like, what is happening? And they wanted to send in aid, and the U.S. said no, and Fidel said,
"Yeah,
let me go help these people."
Makes sense.
That's a horrible story. Well, I hate
it is a tragic story.
I think we could talk to you for approximately 3 to 10 hours.
Oh yeah, I can talk about all kinds of things.
Because you're fascinating. I really love the depth of this conversation.
I can talk about that for 5 hours too. Oh man.
But there's a reason you're doing podcasts and what have you. There's something you're promoting. What is it that you're actually promoting that we never got to?
Oh, music. I have music coming out in 2020.
Do you?
After
in 2020,
my 5
so
year,
you're having music come out a year ago.
I meant to say 2022. I just saw a bunch of twos in my brain. 2022. And I've been on a 5-year hiatus. I haven't released anything since 2015.
That was Sexy Gal, wasn't it? The last
Yes, that was Sexy Gal. And then I went and minded my own business. I went and fucked off and minded my own business and and started, becoming obsessed with stocks. So, but yeah, music, once again, it's back in my life. And
so you're going to have a new album coming out in 2022 or just one song?
At least an EP. No, we're at least doing an EP. And sometimes when I've started making music, and whether it stops at an EP, which is 6 songs, or makes its way all the way to an album, which is like 8 to 10 songs, we shall see.
Will it be like a Swedish accent this time, or?
I was thinking a Taiwanese accent.
Yeah, that'd be good because that's like political now. Because China's going after Taiwan. You might want to actually put that in play.
Actually, I have Chinese in me. Maybe I should do a Chinese accent instead. It could make sense.
No, Taiwanese would be better because you want to you're the underdog in that whole fight. Yes. But we have reached basically the halfway mark. I recommend you stick around at least through the cooking segment, Ben. You can certainly.
I have 2% left, so I'm going to sit here.
Okay.
But you know where I'm going if the 2% cuts out.
We'll take you through that, and because I believe that the cooking segment was specifically was done for you today. So, what's happening here?
I don't know.
It is.
I'm expecting some inappropriate accents right now. I'm a little worried.
Probably.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Brendan's jib limbo. What?
Star Trek Aquaman?
I don't know, man. That was a weird word
That was something you were supposed to see. But I think we just lost her. No,
is that your fan fiction?
I'm here.
Okay.
Is that your fan fiction?
Yeah, that's
right there.
That's what it is. It's fan fiction. All right, here we go.
Food is for eating.
Can you hear it?
Food is for eating. Food is for eating with Waspy Soda Pop.
How do, everybody? I hope you're having a great time. This is Waspy Soda Pop with Food is for Eating. And we have today the most simple jerk chicken you can make. So here's how you do it. 2 teaspoons of allspice. That doesn't mean you get every spice you have. Allspice is its own thing. So 2 teaspoons of that. 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Not the song. It's actually sugar. Come on. Stay with me. 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, 1 tablespoon of canola oil, and 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast. Now, here's what you do with those chicken breasts. You pull them to the left, you pull them to the right. You got to do it fast in what we call a jerky motion. Pull it again, whack it against the countertop. That's how you get your real jerk chicken. Anyway, then you combine all the spices, brown sugar, oil in a small bowl. You preheat a skillet or a grill to high heat. You rub the spice mixture over the chicken breast. You can layer the spice mixture on the chicken as thick or thin as you like. Should be enough to cover about, 4 large chicken breasts, 1.5 pounds. That's in the ingredients. Weren't you paying attention? Anyway, place the spice rubbed chicken breast on the hot grill in your skillet. Cook for about 4 minutes on each side until the exterior is very deep, dark brown, and the inside is no longer pink. Then you want to remove from the heat and let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes. Let the juices soak in before the cutting. And then make sure that you insult those chicken breasts when they come out. You tell them who's boss. You tell them they don't look good. You tell them they look fat in those pants. You do all sorts of things. Because you know what? If you're going to make jerk chicken, you got to be a jerk. Anyway, this is Waspy Soda Pop. See ya. All right, well. It's probably.
Matt, you just gave us a total recipe for jerk chicken, pal. You didn't do anything different?
It may be time to retire that segment. He's got issues.
Oh, I'm sorry, Waspy did, not you. I misspoke.
I'm like, I feel attacked.
Yeah, he was very angry in that episode.
Yeah.
Like, damn, dude.
Leave the chickens alone, Waspy. Chickens have enough problems.
Normally he's more calm. Although there's generally like an aggressiveness to his recipes as well.
I think we need to check his meds to make sure he's doing okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like he was a little off today.
Might be time to retire him to once a month, I think. So anyway, that brings us now to our client for the day, and hopefully Cree can stick around and deal with our client, which is how deep is your bunker or apocalypse? Wow. So
could I just say she's at 1%? So do you want to actually really promote your stuff? Where can we find it?
Oh, yeah, that would probably be good.
She's almost done.
I do have to say that I went to the link for your KreeshaTurner.com, and it goes to a link tree, and there's about 3 or 4 of those that don't work. So I just thought you should be aware. Yeah, like the Instagram one, I think it said something's wrong, and then the shopping one, I couldn't see stuff to buy. And,
yeah, my shopping one is we pulled that down because I'm designing new stuff.
Oh, got it. Okay, and then the BIGO one that didn't.
Your hands?
Go to
that one didn't work.
Yeah.
That was just my.
She's voguing for us.
That's under. Yes. Okay, I'll go check that. Thank you. I did not know.
But
so,
what's the name of the documentary? What's the name of the music that's going to be coming out? Where can people find your stuff?
I don't know what the music's going to be called. I still gotta make
extra
it.
beige.
Actually, extra beige. Extra beige.
Extra beige.
I do have one song that we know is going to be a single that's called Private Island. So that will probably be a tune that's out. But as for the name of the EP, I don't know. It's going to be fly though. But you can find all of my stuff anywhere, KreeshaTurner.com. So KreeshaTurner, and that's Facebook / Kreesha Turner, Instagram / Kreesha Turner, everything / Kreesha Turner.
There's a lot of slashing going on.
Backslash.
She's also going to be doing a horror movie soon as well.
It sounds like Waspy with the
be one of her over 500,000 followers on Instagram, one of her over 300,000 followers on Facebook, and her 5 followers on Twitter, and and listen to her stocks as well. But yeah, and KreeshaTurner.com, and everybody should know Kreesha is spelled Kreesha. And Turner is spelled Turner, so together.
Like Tina Turner.
Add a .com on it. Right, it's Tina Turner.
But the S has a $sign line.
Adopted child. There's no $sign.
No $.
She's not Kesha Turner, she's Kreesha Turner.
Yes.
All right, so we're dealing with apocalypse today. So, there have been a number of apocalypses that we've kind of avoided over like the centuries, the millennia. One of which was an ice age from about 10, 20,000 years ago. There was like a deep freeze where
a lot of people didn't survive that, Matt.
Right. But yeah, obviously, there are many things that we didn't but many
a lot
people
of apocalypses, someone will survive during any apocalypse, but it's a lot of devastation. So
well, it depends if you're talking about an apocalypse or the apocalypse. So which apocalypse are you talking about, Greg?
The Pentecostal one.
The Pentecostal apocalypse?
I mean, are we talking about the apocalypse? Or are we talking about, historical things where, meteors hit and dinosaurs disappeared? I mean, those aren't really apocalypse. When I think of apocalypse, I think of, whatever.
Zombies.
The rapture, zombies,
yes.
Exactly. Or the
big meteor hitting the Earth.
Yeah, and
coronal mass ejection frying everything on the planet.
Oh, that's a great movie with Nicolas Cage. Wasn't that him?
Yes.
What?
I don't know.
Did she say cornholes frying everybody in the United States? What?
Yes. If you've not heard of the cornhole apocalypse, it's really a niche sort of thing, and that's where people start playing cornhole, the game, with the boards and the sandbags.
Yes.
And then everything goes bananas, and the cornhole things come to life. You need to tune into QAnon more, Matt.
Are the cornhole bags made of plutonium? Is that what happens?
Yes. And they come to life, and they're like, it's like The Thing, like the John Carpenter one, and they're running around, and it's a horrible.
The way you did that, it made it look more like The Thing from Addams Family, though.
Yeah,
we lost Cree. That's too bad. Her iPad must have died.
Yes.
She went down. So anyway, it was nice to have you, Cree. She was a lot of fun. I enjoyed her.
Okay. Yes, Matt. I'm sorry I interrupted. So you were saying, there's been many apocalypses.
Right, but we were trying to define, because this was the client that you came up with, which is
But the Black Death,
bubonic plague.
They thought that was the end times. It was like 2/3 of Europe was dead.
And if you think about it, I mean, COVID has killed about as many people as.
Well, I mean, as a percentage of the total population.
Not a percentage. I'm talking about in terms of the amount of people, not the percentage.
Really, has it?
The population.
Heart attacks.
Only 500,000 people died a million people died in the bubonic plague.
I don't know exactly how many.
I think those numbers are off.
I'm probably wrong with my information. No, it's not the same. So bubonic plague did about 50 million people in a year.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say.
Yeah.
And there was less people then.
I was looking at something else.
There was less people then. So
that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people.
That was like, look to the left of you, look to the right of you.
That's like Skippy woke up and everybody in the house was dead.
Yeah.
Skippy.
The
13th century kid.
Yeah.
Wasn't Skippy like the king of Belarus or something? Skippy the Third?
Skippy the Third, yes. That was a generational thing.
He was called Skippy the Cruel. That was his,
No, that was his uncle, and he's misunderstood.
That's right. He was Skippy the Lame.
Yeah.
Skippy the Besotten.
He had a bound foot, and he had trouble walking.
Right.
So
he had a cat, and he really hated birds, and so he killed a lot of birds. It was like a birdicide. It was a bird apocalypse. I don't know what the hell his story was, but he was an asshole.
All I know is that I'm enjoying your tangent today, Brendan. Go for it.
Yes, I think Brendan's had some beers.
Brendan's going down my usual road.
Yes, exactly. I'm just getting into the flow of it.
We have avianicide.
I wanted to bring this client in because, it's obviously, we actually, in my lifetime, people talked about.
Wait, your lifetime, would that be anything near to our lifetimes, Greg?
No, I'm different age than you. But it really does seem like, talking about ecological collapse in 20 years when the permafrost starts melting and the carbon dioxide's released, it's like, we're really like there for real. It's not just like in 1000 AD, all these Christians were like, oh, it's the end times. Jesus is coming back. It's the Revelations, Book of Revelations. They were just idiots. But we have actually hard scientific data now. It's like, yeah, in 20 years, it could be the fucking almost the end of mankind. Like, some people will live, obviously. There'll probably be some stragglers, but it's a thing.
Well, I think that comes to, like, how deep is your bunker? So if that does happen in 20 years, how deep would your bunker have to be to avoid it?
I saw this thing, and you can check this out. It was like on Yahoo News or Google News. I don't know. It was on my phone. But they've built this mega yacht, and you can buy an apartment on this mega yacht, and they plan on building more of these mega yachts. And I started thinking that, conspiracy head in me was like, oh God, they're making boats for all the rich people to live where the world is flooded. Holy shit.
That's exactly what they're doing. It's just like that sci-fi movie. What was it? Elysium, where like all the rich people are in a space station.
Or there's 2012, the movie 2012, which was dealing with like the Mayan apocalypse, where all the people bought money to get onto the arcs that went up into the Himalayas.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that movie.
So yeah, that could be a sign. Everybody's getting on yachts to get away from flooding. But if there's major flooding, the yachts aren't going to save you either. Those things will take over aircraft carriers. They'll capsize those suckers.
They just have to go out far enough out to sea, and the tsunamis or whatever, they don't affect.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Unless the earthquakes are in the middle of the ocean, like
but we're talking about
the Marianas Trench.
We're talking about flooding, not Cthulhu. I mean, it's just you go out into the water and fine.
Not the Kraken.
Release the Kraken. The real apocalypse is, I'm more concerned with the lack of, the rising temperatures and how that's going to affect crops and all that. I mean, even though I live in Florida, flooding is a major concern, but I've looked at all the data, and it isn't until like 2080 or 100 or something where it's like Miami is really kind of fucked. But in other parts where it's arid already, I really think that we're going to see food riots, and I don't know. I think it's going to be something different before the rich people need to float out in their big yachts. I think we're going to have to break up the poor people killing each other over rice.
When do you see that happening?
I don't think it's that far out, man. Maybe 20 years.
Like the entire agricultural system is just going to shut down?
Well, I know that there was a thing I was reading about in India. There was had to ration the rice or something, and it was like a mass starvation event. There was just people who were just unable to get to the rice because whatever, they didn't have a bike or something, whatever the fuck happened, and so they were just dying. There was just people starving in India.
They didn't even have a skateboard to get to the rice?
No skateboards, nothing, man. No little razor scooter. Fuck, they were screwed, man.
They could just walk to the rice.
I always thought like a weird apocalypse that I've never seen a science fiction writer talk about. It's like an apocalypse of the soul, if you will, even though I'm an atheist.
If you will.
If I will. What if like in 30 years, like just our brains change where like people don't even care about other people. And it's just like, oh, you can murder someone if you want to. Who cares? It's no biggie. And that would be a horrible apocalypse. Like, because I already see people's brains changing in my lifetime where it's like I don't even understand half the people in my country what they're saying. So if
you
it
don't
gets to the
understand
point
because
where
you don't understand English anymore. What are you talking about, girl?
no, I don't
Are you
understand
speaking metaphorically?
I don't understand their
Look, you can get on any one of a number of apps to learn how to speak Spanish, and then you can speak with the other half of the population.
No, but I think it's everywhere. It's not just America. It's like I always thought that would be the worst apocalypse if like just what if everything was fine? There's no ecological disaster, no nuclear war, but it was just okay to kill someone if you felt like it.
I mean, like the Purge?
Kind of like that, but yeah.
You actually think that's going to happen? Like that's a realistic scenario for you?
I don't know. After the past 5 years, I don't know where people's brains are going.
Well, people are just randomly killing people and thinking it's okay.
They're not now.
Right. So it's like, where is this coming from your mind? Like, what portents are you seeing in your tea leaves, Greg, that see this particular apocalypse happening?
What it was is like seeing how every generation like condemns the next generation, like all these. Like, in the 60s, it was like these hippies, they're just complete hedonists and they're evil, basically. They're like just fucking and like, what if like when we're old men, like the young generation is just like, oh yeah, if you don't like someone, just kill them. Don't be lame. That's whatever, old man. I killed that
was
guy.
Past cultures when they, like the Inuit would send out their elderly out on ice flows and.
No, that was smart. I'm
Easter Island. At what age do we get sent on ice floes, Brendan?
You're going to be sent on
when are we going?
Soon.
I think once I start really having trouble controlling myself downstairs, you can put me on an ice floe. That'd be fine with me.
So as soon as you're incontinent, whenever you can't like control your pee, it's like send me away.
Yeah, that's probably a good rule of thumb. I mean, if I'm still contributing and I just have to wear a diaper, maybe.
Or have a catheter.
But chances are I've probably lost other facilities at that point. What I thought was a good like apocalypse, different take on it was Children of Men.
That was when they stopped being able to have kids or something?
Yeah, like that I think, although I don't have any reason to think that would happen, but I could see that almost more realistically happening than Greg's Purge.
No, I know
this Purge scenario.
Where it's like, the just the constant chemicals and whatever, and people start becoming more and more, not fertile or whatever, and suddenly.
Well, I was watching a recent episode of John Oliver. I think it was a few weeks ago, where he did a show about certain chemicals that are created by DuPont and 3M that are literally in everybody. Like 99% of the population that was tested had these chemicals in them. This is the stuff that they make Teflon with.
Yep.
And in certain parts of the country that is much higher than others, and has caused a number of defects and mutations within individuals. And the fact that 99% of us have it. And this was a study that was done across the country and in other countries. That's a little bit distressing.
Yeah, there's a great documentary. I forget what the hell the name of it was, but there's a great documentary that takes that John Oliver segment and does 2 hours on it, and it'll blow your mind. Like I was like Captain, like no stick, no problem, and now I'm like, oh God, no. But it's too late.
Just don't scrape it with a fork or a knife.
What's too late?
Be careful.
It's too late to like decide, I'm just not going to use Teflon. It's already in you. That's my point.
Right. Got it. Yeah, I mean, because, the fact is it's a really handy thing that they created. If you've ever like ruined a cast iron pan, you understand the benefit of Teflon. But at the same time, you aren't necessarily told the bad parts of Teflon.
Kreesha mentioned the zombie apocalypse, and that might seem like, fantastical for
who mentioned it?
Kreesha.
Oh, I thought you said Christian, and I was like, huh?
Sister Christian. That's what I call her.
Sister Christian all the time.
There's an apocalypse right there.
You guys probably know this thing, but there is a microbe, or I don't even know what it is, but it infects ants.
Yeah, it's a fungus.
It turns them into zombies. It's a virus. And it makes the ant just totally become brainless. And at the end of its lifespan, once it's infected with this virus, it wants to climb to the highest point it can on a tree because it's going to explode and release the virus so it'll spread. And I was like, that could be a real zombie thing. Like, what if that happens? It spreads to humans somehow.
Yeah, no, it's a fungus. It's not a virus. It's a fungus.
Thank you. Sorry.
And it's a cordyceps, and it's a particular type of fungus, and they affect ants. The reason that the ant crawls up to the top actually is so that he will be eaten by a sheep, and then when the sheep eats the infected ant, the spores from the fungus go into the shit of the sheep. The sheep shits out the fungus spores, and then the ants get infected by the shit.
But we eat mutton sometimes.
My real question here is, why do you know so much about this, Brendan?
Because he's a homeschooling dad.
Yeah, I know, but he knew the name Cordyceps as being the ant or the fungus.
He's a teacher.
But certain things don't get retained, Greg, even though you're teaching people things.
Two things. One, I'm a big fan of fungus.
That's a T-shirt.
I'm a big fan. I buy kind of a mushroom fungus sort of health product that I put in my coffee in the morning. It's great. It has cordyceps in it. Now, going back to and why this will connect is my son, before he left for the Navy, Rourke, came down and he saw this and he's like, "Dad, are you eating this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I put it in my coffee in the morning. It's supposed to be good for me. I don't know." And he goes, "It's got cordyceps in it." I'm like, "Yeah, cordyceps. Fuck yeah." And he's like, there's a video game, Greg. I forget what it's called, The Last of Us or something. It's a zombie apocalypse video game. It's very popular. I think it's called The Last of Us. And that is the zombie apocalypse. It is a fungal infection, a cordyceps kind of thing. So that's why my son knew about it, because he's like, he was telling me that's what's in this video game, and you're eating zombie mushrooms, and then then the running joke around the house was I'd wander around in the morning going
until you have your fungus.
And for those who really want to know, it's Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. That is the zombie ant fungus.
Yeah, there's several of them though. I think
they're Latin.
Yeah, I think there's a couple that do different things, but yeah. The ant one's pretty famous because it literally takes over the ants for central nervous system. They don't really have really a brain, perhaps, and then it drives the ant around doing its bidding. Super creepy, but yeah, we had a space fungus. I don't know.
Yeah, I was always terrified of just like a meteor hitting Earth, like just the fact that everything would end, like Earth was cracked in half, like, because I'm a misanthrope. I'm kind of just always pissed off at humanity most of the time, but we've created some great things. Like we've created the Ramones, and we've created
I think the Ramones created the Ramones.
We've created Mad Max Fury Road, our civilization, and it's like, I don't want that just to be gone forever. The whole universe will never know of these great things Earth created. We're just done. We're just
I remember watching a movie a number of years ago. It was one of those apocalyptic movies, but it was essentially a nuclear war. And the last survivors were on a submarine, and they're all trying to make their way to Australia because that's like the one place
from here
left.
To eternity?
I can't. No.
On the beach.
On the beach.
The Australian one.
It wasn't an Australian movie. It had like Armando Asante was like the main character, and I forget.
No, it's not On the Beach then.
And I remember there was somebody else, and essentially it was, they're all trying to get to Australia before nuclear winter gets there. But it turns out, by the time they get there, nuclear winter had reached every corner of the world, and everybody dies at the end of this movie. And I'm like, wow, this is probably the most depressing movie I've ever seen, where you suddenly realize that nothing mattered. Nothing matters at all to our planet if everybody dies. Every piece of human accomplishment, every great work of art has absolutely no meaning whatsoever if everybody's gone.
Yeah.
And
it was on the beach, which is a 1959.
No, it's a different movie. He's thinking of something else because on the beach.
This might have been it might have been a remake of it, but
on the beaches they're in Australia waiting to die. Like they're like, because Australia's far away, so they're like, oh, the radiation's going to get here soon, so we're all going to die soon. It's definitely not From Here to Eternity.
No, that's the one with Sinatra. But
no, I'm pretty sure it's that movie. But
no,
anyway.
I think like I said, I think it's a remake. Yeah, it is. It's a remake of On the Beach that came out in 2000. So
I haven't seen that one.
It was made. It was a TV movie. So
I thought a good apocalypse movie was Finding a Friend for the End of the Universe with Steve Carell. Finding a Friend for the End of the Universe or the End of the World.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
This one.
It came out like last few years.
Yeah, Steve Carell and
I've been meaning to watch it, but I haven't watched it.
What's the shtick of it?
It's there's a meteor coming, and they've tried everything and there's nothing they can do, and the world is going to end in X amount of days.
Yeah.
And Steve Carell does a great performance as this just Steve Carell character where he's like an insurance adjuster, and he's just living out his last days, and everybody's losing their shit because the world is going to end and there's nothing, absolutely nothing anybody can do about it. And so he's still kind of going to work, and people are like just crying in the office and losing their mind. And anyway, it ends up being kind of a romantic comedy. And I'm not generally a fan of that genre, but this one is.
I want to see that so bad.
Did you guys hear about the asteroid that almost hit Earth a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, I keep track of that.
Yeah, it was an asteroid about the size of a refrigerator.
Yeah,
came within 1,800 miles of Earth.
That wouldn't do much, though. That wouldn't really fuck us up.
No, refrigerator size, it's going to burn up mostly in the atmosphere. But there was another one about, I want to say 2 or 3 months prior, that was much bigger. It was like the size of a skyscraper. Still not enough to probably end life on the planet, but
right.
Yeah.
It would have to be really, really big. What I'm reading here is that for an object to be considered dangerous, it has to measure at least 460 feet in diameter.
Yeah, I think that was the one that hit like Russia in 1907. What was that one that like it didn't end life, obviously, but it like
Tukuski.
Yeah, it kicked up so like
not
it was
Sandusky. That was a different apocalypse.
The whole world was like darker for 2 years. Like it was like that crater, it kicked up so much shit. So it's like all these other apocalypses that we cause, like ecological, nuclear, and it's like I always thought as a little kid I was terrified of this, and I always thought I would vote for any president who that's his main platform. Like we have to have a better space program to be able to knock these fucking asteroids out of the sky.
Space Force.
That was not Donald Trump's vision for Space Force.
Well, there are many ways we could all die, I think. And, I think the biggest problem we'll have is like when we find out the vampires are real and they decide to finally just take over and kill everybody.
That's not going to happen, ever. There's no fungus that turns into a vampire mat.
How do you know there aren't actually vampires in existence right now?
I started watching that show.
That turns an ant into a blood-sucking ant.
What We Do in the Shadows, that's a great show. That's another one.
That is pretty hilarious.
Oh, God,
that show is pretty funny.
I love that show.
I just started watching it like a couple of nights ago, and I'm like, well, how have I missed The Office? The Office meets vampires.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like The Office, Parks and Rec meets werewolves and vampires. Definitely.
Yeah.
But, it has a vampire in that show, which is called like an emotional vampire. And back in the early days of the internet, when there were a lot of like news groups and things like that, I was a member very briefly of a vampire group of people who thought that they were vampires. And I
knew one of those guys.
They shortly kicked me out of their group for making fun of them. But prior to me asking them questions they didn't like, I found out that there were these guys who thought they were emotional vampires. Like they could go into a room and they could drain the energy out of a room I'm like, yeah, that's just because you got a shitty personality.
Yeah,
I'm like that's not because you're a vampire.
That's not supernatural.
You silly person. You know, and other people like tell about like how much blood they could drink before like they would cause them to vomit and stuff like that. I'm like that's not a vampire. That's just you pretending to be one. This is not real, people. How do you... Anyway, and that's when I realized that for legitimate sake that people are nuts and they have things going on in their heads that you will never know what that is.
No, but you know, in Tucson, I worked at a bookstore with a guy named Guillermo, and he was very functional. He did a great job.
Your first tell right there is Guillermo.
Guillermo. That's the name of the character in the show, isn't it?
Exactly. I think it is. He's my favorite character, actually. I love Guillermo. But this Guillermo, I didn't love so much because he was kind of annoying because he really thought he was a vampire. And sometimes I would ask him, like, so Guillermo, I mean...
Who turned you, Guillermo?
Are you going to live forever? And he really thought he was. He would just totally tell me, not insane, with an insane gleam in his eye. He'd be like, oh, yeah, I am. I'm going to live forever.
So you should have tested it on him.
Well, it's like put a cross on his forehead.
Can we find Guillermo and have him on the show?
We should probably. And he was very goth. He was a goth guy, and his house was so gothy. Like all of his silverware was like bone. It looked like femurs, like his fork.
It's not silverware, Greg. It's boneware.
Yeah, it was boneware. It was
boneware.
He had like these fancy forks and knives that were all like look like bones, you know, like femurs and whatever.
Was that a Soundgarden song you just did, Brendan?
Yeah. Boneware. What's the matter with your bone? Yeah, I don't know. I love the energy vampire on that show, though. The fucking accountant guy.
He's everyone's favorite. Colin
is... Robinson. I mean, actually, my favorite is the British guy because I loved him on the IT Crowd. I can't get enough of that guy. But
you got to say the Toast of London if you love that guy.
You know, I saw that. I wasn't as big of a fan of it with him.
Oh, I loved it. I thought you would like that because it's all non sequiturs and nonsense.
Sometimes it can be too much non sequitur or something. You do want some strain of something you can follow, you know, for it to go.
Okay, let's. What is your worst apocalyptic fear? What's the one you worry about? You stay up late at night about?
I don't worry about any of them. The only one that has the slightest amount of concern for me is the potential supervolcano going off a couple of miles away from here that is triggered by like the San Andreas Fault and you know, and then like
all the other volcanoes go off.
Yellowstone going up massively and just wiping out the West Coast. That's the only one that I have some slight amount of concern for because it's about 300 years overdue. So it's like it was supposed to happen about 300 years ago. So
that's a legit one. I'd say the meteor thing is one for me. Like, I feel like if the meteor was coming, they wouldn't let us know until it was probably too late.
Because they don't want all the panicking to happen where people are like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, they don't want to panic, you know, so they're like,
It's like, how deep is that bunker?
Right.
Well, they could send Bruce Willis up there.
Yeah, they could send Bruce Willis is really way gone.
I was going to say, Affleck might still be old enough to be able to be sent up. Yeah. But I think Willis by that time.
Steve Buscemi, maybe.
Well, you know, I mean, Shatner just went into space recently, and he's 90, so maybe they're not too old.
But he could blow up an asteroid.
Let's just put Bezos and Musk and Branson all in a giant space dildo and just shoot them at the fucking thing. And even if it didn't work, all of us would have the satisfaction of knowing that they blew up. And then we'd all die. And it'd be cool. I'd be for that.
Even the giant space ark that they're building secretly in Area 52 for all the rich people. Send this giant space ark.
Area 52, Greg.
Is it? Oh, I'm sorry. That's the bar. Area 51. There's a bar in Portland, everyone, called Area 52. So
there used to be a bar called that, but
yeah. But that would be great if all those people in the space ark were like, oh yeah, we're the rich people are gonna escape this apocalypse. And it's like, actually, no, we're gonna send you at this asteroid.
We're gonna just shoot you at the asteroid.
Yeah, because this is a giant.
Did you call it a disasteroid, Greg? That's a great name.
I didn't, but that is good.
That's a
just
movie.
An asteroid. It's a disasteroid.
That's a movie title. Disasteroid.
Yeah,
It's
I can
like
see that on
Sharknado.
Shudder TV.
Yeah, on Sci-Fi
That's
Network.
right.
After Sharknado 7.
Starring William Shatner.
I think last year my wife and her sister like watched all the Sharknado movies during Halloween, just for the heck of
Brilliant.
it. Yeah.
I watched one, and it was so
Idiotic.
so bad. It was laughably funny. I sat here. I think I was watching it with Dagny, my littlest one, and we just Mystery Science Theater 3000 the shit out of it and had a fantastic time.
I think the selling point to them is like which B and C actors will you be able to see in those movies that you haven't seen in like 20 years? Like, oh, it's what's his name from Hercules or whatever show.
We were mostly
Tara
yeah.
Reid or somebody like that.
Yeah, we were mostly laughing at how horrible the CGI sharks were.
Yeah.
Like they'd show like the one, and then they're like,
just like a little plastic shark on a stick moving through the air.
yeah. And then the guy with the chair, I forget.
I never saw any of the movies, so I don't know.
There's a guy who's like a B movie actor who you'd recognize, like a character actor, and he's this drunk at the bar, and he's beating sharks to death with his bar stool because for some reason he brings it with, and then he ends up dying, and that was the tragedy for us. We were like, oh no, bar stool guy.
He died beating on sharks with the bar
He
stool.
died, and then they get the bar stool. They're like, oh no, he's dead, but we still have his bar stool.
They could bronze it and put it up on it as a trophy or something.
That movie is so bad.
Anyway, our last few episodes, we've gone really long. Normally we do like an hour show, and we were like been good about that, but we've been very talkative in the last few episodes.
Well, I think it was also that Kreesha was very fascinating. Who would have thought that not only is she a day trader, an expert in stocks, but she did a documentary about Fidel Castro.
No, she was one of our more interesting people, for sure.
She's also in a movie with Nick Cannon too, you know, Mariah Carey's ex-husband.
What?
So she was in a movie with Nick Cannon, Mariah Carey's ex-husband.
Wait, you mean that piece of shit guy who was like her pimp, her suitcase pimp? That guy's horrible.
How is Nick Cannon? Did you call him a suitcase pimp? What the fuck does that even mean?
That's when you call a guy who's like, it's a porn term. Like guys who are married to,
of course, it always goes back to porn with porn.
They're married to women, but they're also their manager, and they're like pimping them out, even though it's like, this is my wife, but she's gonna.
I don't think he was her manager.
I thought he was.
No, I think she was more like his sugar mama, is what it was, and he got his career because of her.
So this is another guy I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wasn't he the kind of obnoxious guy on the whatever the show where they rated people, and he was like the black guy backstage that would announce people?
America's Got Talent. Yeah, he's on that as the host on that, and he's also the host of The Masked Singer as well. So
yeah, not shows I watch.
So anyway, so he basically got Kreesha into a movie that he wrote and directed, and that was based upon dancehall scene in Jamaica. So she apparently got and Busta Rhymes is in that movie too. That's something that apparently can only be seen on YouTube Red, but we didn't get to that because we probably could. Like I told her before, we could have probably talked to her for like 3 to 10 hours. I'm sure she had lots of opinions about things. Anyway, but I think now is a good time. I think that was a good episode. This is a good episode. You know, we had a good talk on apocalypses or apocalypses, however it's pronounced.
You're good enough. You're smart enough, and people like you, Matt.
Yeah, I haven't met them yet. But anyway,
this sounds like a daily affirmation. That was a good episode.
It was good. Did you like it?
Was it good for you today?
Did you? I have to like pat myself on the back. How great that was. So happy with myself. Somebody give me a cookie. Somebody.
No, that was a good one.
Give me a cookie or a fish. Anyway, all right. Who wants to end the show? Brendan, end the show.
I just want to say, namaste, winter. You will never be forgotten.
Never be forgotten?
I don't know.
I think I said never be forgotten pretty clearly.
I heard never be forgotten.
Really? I didn't. Okay. Yeah, so wait, winter's the dolphin?
but you're wearing an Assassin's Creed outfit.
Winter is the dolphin in Clearwater who passed, and we're still very much.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the actual winter, because winter was coming.
Mourning.
No, Winter the dolphin.
Winter the dolphin is coming. That's what Game of Thrones is all about. Anyway,
yes, that's right. Without a back fluke, she's just flopping around.
It's the zombie dolphin that's
now
been
she's
brought
a
to
White
life.
Walker.
That's the real zombies that we're going to be dealing with. It's going to be zombie dolphins taking over the world, and that will be a true apocalypse.
I just feel bad that the last time I saw her, she was just sort of floating, and she just looked like kind of a gray log, just sort of floating around. And I turned to my wife, and I'm like, "Is she dead?" Not cool. Not cool, Brendan.
Nothing like a little gray log dolphin. All right, well, let's end the sucker. This has been the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. In case you didn't know, people, www.qsblaw.org. We're a nonprofit because nobody gives us any money.
Your consultation with the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker has ended. You may pay your retainer at www.qsblaw.org. Please exit to the right of the water cooler and grab a candy from the front desk. We hope to see you again soon, but you need to leave now. I said leave. Why don't they ever listen? Get out! Get out!